a new Dokkan Fest LR, followed by one of the coolest LRs the game had seen yet, and a ton of new EZAs. Stay tuned while we uncover the month of July 2019 in today's Dokkan History video. The month of July started with the Tanabata celebration, featuring the global first LR Gohan and Goten, an LR that had a pretty controversial release on global, but by the time they got to JP, everyone pretty much agreed that these guys were phenomenal. They introduced the siblings mod category into the game, a category that even though was limited, was genuinely not bad. It had all of the Gotens and older Gohans, Dragon Ball Super Vegetas, Beerus, and Whis, and since Easy Attack Beerus and LR Beerus and Whis were still a very good rotation, having another team where you could run them on was pretty nice. But obviously the best part about that category was the fact that they let it for 4 key. Like, this was a pretty huge deal, since the different characters in that category didn't really link that well together, but also because LR Gohan and Goten had key issues, so that additional key in their leader skill definitely helped. They also led the Goku's family category, which was just insane, since that was literally one of the best categories in the game. They then greatly raised their attack on both their 12 and 18 key super attacks, which was obviously very good on an LR. Had 58% attack and defense at the start of turn, launched an additional attack that had a 30% chance of becoming a super attack, 1 key and 10% attack and defense per attack performed, up to an additional 5 key and 100% attack and defense. Above that was actually calculated separately for a total boost of 216% attack and defense. This was just insanely huge on an LR, but it took some time for them to fully build up, so they were very good in the legendary Goku event. But honestly, you could even run them in SVR. You just had to be careful their first appearance, and then they were literally unstoppable in slot 2 or 3. Like, they were just an all-around very good unit. But like I mentioned earlier, they kind of struggled with key. Like, the only key link they had was Golden Warrior, a link that only gave 1 key, but after a couple of attacks, it wasn't that much of an issue anymore. Like, they weren't like the LRs %4s who genuinely had no problem at all hitting their 18 key super attacks, but they didn't struggle to the point that it was a big problem. They also had an active skill attack, but the problem is that it had a terrible condition. It could only be activated starting from the 3rd turn from the start of battle when below 59% HP, and when facing only one enemy. Like, active skill attacks were very good because of their utility in Super Battle Road, but with that active skill condition, it was literally impossible to see it in SVR, so you could only see it consistently in the Legendary Goku event. But from what I remember, it just didn't do enough damage on that event, especially in the later phases. Like, MGI Goku was int, so it literally did like 0 damage to that guy, unless you had a crit. So this was kind of a letdown, especially since the animation were pretty good for a time. Like, nothing on the level of like Name Goku, but still pretty cool. LR Gohan and Goten also came with a new banner unit, a new Super Saiyan Gohan. He was a sub-leader for the Movie Heroes category, lowered attack on Super, gave Movie Heroes category allies 2 key and 40% attack and defense, and had 100% attack and defense against a Movie Bosses category enemy. The support type buff was very good though, and he was the perfect linking partner for the new LR with that new key support. Like, that was clearly what he was made for. But I remember not really understanding why he had all of his start of turn buffs held behind a Movie Bosses condition. Like, you almost never saw that part of his passive active in the difficult events of the time. But the support type buff was honestly just more than enough at the time for him to be seen as a very good banner unit. As for the new banner, it honestly wasn't the best banner. It featured in Dokkan Fest Goku, who was phenomenal SVR and decent in the Legendary Goku event, Tech Full Powers % for Goku, who was still very good on LRs % for Goku's team, Physical Future Gohan, who was literally now better than ever thanks to the Legendary Goku event, the Ultimate Gohans, who were still okay I guess, Text % Broly, who was absolutely terrible, Physical Broly, who sure was bad, but like was about to easy very soon, and Strength Broly, who was just complete fodder if you had LR Broly. Like, honestly, for a Tanabata banner, this was pretty bad. Like, I have no idea what were all of the Brolys doing here. If one of them had been replaced by something like Tech Beerus, the banner would have definitely been much better. They also renewed the Family Kamehameha story event and added some new farmable free-to-play units to it and Dokkan Awakenings. Strength Videl greatly lowered defense on Super, had 1 key and 20% attack and defense per Movie Heroes category on the team, up to 3 key and 60% attack and defense, and a 70% chance of giving all allies 30% attack and defense at the start of turn. Like, definitely nothing crazy, but alright for a free-to-play card. Physical Goten stacked attack on Super, had 2 key and 50% defense at the start of turn, and an additional 50% attack and defense with a Vegeta's family category around the team. So honestly, not that great. Percent Trunks was much better. He stacked defense on Super. With just that part of his passive alone, the guy was generally one of the best free-to-play unit in the Legendary Goku event, but it's not like you had much options there anyways. Like, there were only so many free-to-play units that stacked defense on Super, but yeah, he had 2 key and 50% attack at the start of turn, and an additional 50% attack and defense with a Goku's family category around the team. So you needed to run him with a Goku's family unit, or else he just couldn't stack fast enough, but it wasn't hard with how vast that category was. This celebration also came with your typical Luganu's campaigns and missions that were pretty generous as you would guess, and the wish trips were also back. The pool of character didn't improve that much, like the big additions were Strength Topo, Physical Weirus, and the Galacon Vegeta and Trunks. Those were the units you wanted to pick up with your wish trips. We also had the Porunga wishes, and the wishes didn't change from the previous year's Tanabata celebration, so your only options really were the wish trips, skies, and potential orbs. We also had the 16 battlefield that same day, a completely new battlefield with some new enemies that were mostly just reskinned versions of the previous battlefield enemies, but I do remember some of these new bosses being pretty annoying. Babidi, for example, stilled all of your characters permanently, meaning you could never super attack against him, which alone was a very interesting gimmick, like not being able to super attack. So you had to bring units that had multiple additional attacks or counters. But the thing is that Babidi could also stun you on super, and if you didn't know, stunned units can't counter, so this could get pretty annoying. And units who got most of their buffs on super were also cooked against him. But he wasn't a difficult boss by any means, just annoying. Not like the final boss. Jiren was pretty difficult, like he just did so much damage, and his super attack also lowered your defense. So if you're unfortunate enough to have that guy super you in slot 1, you were literally cooked. The game didn't have many slot 1 characters at the time, so getting supered in slot 1 was generally just the end for you. But thankfully he was in the universal Survival Saga category, so you could just bring Tech Caulifla and keep her in slot 1 to avoid that situation, but you know, with bad RNG, anything could happen. You could also lower his attack, so bringing characters that could lower attack was also good. But yeah, this was a difficult boss. As for the new battlefield LR Mecha Frieza and King Cold were sub-leaders for the Wicked Bloodline category, lowered attack on their 12 key super, raised Extreme Class Allies attack by 30% for 2 turns on their 18 key super attack, had 66% attack and defense at the start of turn, an additional 20% attack per Wicked Bloodline's category ally on the team, up to an additional 60% attack, and 9 key when facing a Super Saiyan category enemy. Like, honestly, they were good, like a decent fridge play LR, especially against a Super Saiyan category enemy, but they just weren't anything special. And the worst part was probably their cost. They were so expensive, like 300,000 battlefield memory for a single copy was just ridiculous. And at 55%, you can guess that they were pretty mid. So by the time we could actually rainbow these guys, they were pretty much outdated, which is sad because that's actually such a cool LR. Like, I think they should have been like a very good support type unit for the Wicked Bloodline category, or even just stack defense on super. This would have definitely made them not only better at the time, but also would have made them age better, especially with how limited they were. Like, you could only run them on one team and they weren't anything special there. They then announced the next day that some of the units that awakened from the battlefield medals were going to EZA later down the line. 3 days later, and they dropped the Tanabata banner, the first banner to feature 3 LRs, which at first glance looked insane, but in reality, the banner was pretty bad for veterans, since it had 20 featured units, and 16 of those units were very old units. But for a new player, that banner was genuinely pretty good, especially since they didn't rig the race stat here. The banner had a 5% featured SSR rate as per usual, but honestly the most notable thing about that banner was the fact that you could now pick up the LRs First and 4s with coins. Like, that was generally the highlight there. Almost a week later, and they dropped a new story event with a new fridge play unit and a new Dokkan Awakening. And the new Int Super Saiyan Goku was just such a cool card. He had a 30% chance of stunning the attacked enemy on super for 2 turns, had 59% attack at the start of turn, a 50% dodge chance as the first attacker in a turn, and reduced the damage he received from normal attacks by 59%, while also countering them with tremendous power as the second or third attacker in a turn. Like, this was just so cool. Counter units were, at least in my opinion, the most fun units in the game at the time, so having another unit that could counter was just so cool. Like, bro, honestly, I would love to see a Dokkan Fest version of that card at some point. Like, sure, given a new Dokkan Fest TUR, normal attack counters might be too much, so they could just give him like an unarmed super attack counter. Like, that animation would generally look insane today. The Dokkan Awakening of the Baba Shop 18 was pretty good. She lowered attack on super, gave all allies 2 key and 18% attack and defense, an additional 18% attack and defense to Android category allies, and had 18% attack and defense for Android category ally on the team, up to an additional 54% attack and defense. So yeah, a lot of 18% buffs. But yeah, she was a decent support type unit, and with how packed that category was with support type units, she just made that team even more fun to use. We also had the EZA of Physical Broly that same day. He now stacked attack and defense, which already made him a beast for the Legendary Goku event. He then had 4 key and 80% attack and defense at 8 or more key, meaning this guy could super at 8 key. He also had a guaranteed additional super attack, while also getting 2% crit chance, up to 40% crit per attack performed. Like, all of that coupled with the fact that he stacked attack and defense on super just made him look insane. Like, that guy on paper looked absolutely crazy for the Legendary Goku event. But then we saw his defensive stat post EZA, and bro, that guy had 5k defense at 55% post EZA. This was free to play unit level of defensive stats. So I remember that guy just not being that great at 55%. Like, he was just too slow. But with some dupes, he was definitely still good in Legendary Goku event, just because the event was long enough for him to be able to stack even with his low defensive base stat. At least his EZA event was pretty easy. He was weak to hybrid sense category units, so you had plenty of options. A week later, and it was time for a new yellow coin LR, but not any LR, LR Tech Broly. That guy was just phenomenal at the time. He was a sub leader for the Resurrected Warriors category and the Extreme Tech type, which was very useful in SBR, Battlefield, or even against Super Saiyan Goku's EZA. Then he lowered and greatly lowered defense on his 12 and 18k super attacks, had 90% attack and defense when attacking with 12k or more, an additional 50% attack when attacking with 18k or more, a guaranteed super attack when facing 2 or more enemies, so he was already looking insane for SBR, but then he transformed starting from the 4th turn from the start of battle. Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, now greatly and massively lowered defense on his super attacks, had 100% attack and defense when attacking with 12k or more, an additional 88% attack when attacking with 18k or more, still had a guaranteed super attack when facing 2 or more enemies, and launched an additional attack that had a medium chance of becoming a super attack when facing only one enemy, meaning that in SBR, if you were facing 2 enemies, but that you managed to kill one of them with his additional super attack, that part of his passive would then proc, and he would launch that additional attack, meaning that guy could super up to 4 times within the turn, which was pretty insane with his stats and buffs. Like, that guy was just an SBR beast, but what really made that guy a fan favorite was his active skill. He could use it directly after transforming, and it gave him 24 ki and 48% attack for 1 turn. Above that was actually calculated separately, meaning that he had 326% attack his active skill turn. Like the attack stats that guy would launch, his active skill turns were just insane. Just something we had never seen before. Like, sure, he wasn't really that great in the Legendary Goku event, but he was just so insane in SBR, and just such a fun and cool unit to use. And his animations were just phenomenal too. Definitely some of the best in the game. His banner was also not bad for a yellow coin banner, like it featured all of the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie banner units. Like, obviously the banner still sucked, but it was still one of the best yellow coin banners we had seen. The next day, and they changed the icons of some story event medals. Unlike the last time with like the Gustasher medal, I really don't know why they did those changes this time around. The Broly banner also hit top grossing that same day. Crazy to think that LR Gohan and Goten didn't reach top grossing, but Broly did. Broly, who had a much worse banner, by the way. Like, I guess the Broly really was just him at the time. Like, that guy was, I guess, that hype. But yeah, they gave everyone 30 Dragon Stones and 3000 Tech type potential orbs. 3 days later, and they dropped the update 4.5.1. The update increased the limit of items you could hold on your box from 999 to 9999. This was huge at the time, because I remember my box getting filled with awakening medals, and it still is to this day. I think they need to increase that limit again. They also increased the amount of gifts you could claim all at once, from 30 to 100, which I guess was good for players who stacked gifts for some reasons. Then they also added the 2x speed option in the menu. No idea how this wasn't a thing before. Only being able to change it mid-battle could get annoying. They also made some adjustments to Android 13's Awakening Medals drop rates in the story event that same day. Those changes were actually pretty significant, because those medals had horrendous drop rates, and with his upcoming EZA, they definitely had to do something about it. 4 days later, and it was already time for another world tournament. It came with some new cards and awakenings. Ageless Person Gohan was pretty good. He had a 30% chance of stunning the attacked enemy on Super for 2 turns, 70% attack and defense at the start of turn, and gave Super Classalized 2 ki and 30% attack. So yeah, a very solid card for Battlefield or even SVR. Int Tien was an interesting card. He raised his attack and defense by 30% for 9 turns on Super, launched an additional attack that had a 50% chance of becoming a Super attack, had a 70% chance of launching an additional attack that also had a 50% chance of becoming a Super attack, 10% attack and defense per Dragon Ball Saga category on the team. Like, that guy on In Goku's team could generally put up some decent numbers, both offensively and defensively. Like, with some RNG, that guy was genuinely a viable option in the Legendary Goku event. But I personally never used him, simply because I don't think I've ever run a full OG Dragon Ball team, as crazy as this might sound. As for the new World Tournament reward card, Int Percent Gohan was okay. Like, he stacked attack on Super, had 80% attack and defense at the start of turn, and gained 2 ki and 50% attack when facing an Android category enemy. Like, a very basic kit that wasn't anything crazy. They then teased the upcoming Dokkan Fest the next day, and it looked like the month was going to end with a new Dokkan Fest Piccolo. His celebration was out 2 days later, and it was pretty packed. Dokkan Fist Piccolo was out the next day, and he was a transforming unit. Physical Piccolo was the first proper leader for the Namekian category, which honestly changed nothing since that category was just filled with Piccolo units, but you could only run one of them at a time, because don't forget that this was before the same name update. But he also did introduce a new category. The Worthy Rivals category was pretty interesting. Like, the most notable thing here was that it featured all of the Vegeta cards, so that team was generally just a different variation of the Vegeta's family. Not the greatest category ever, but the game had so many good Vegeta cards at the time that it wasn't the worst either. As for his kit, the guy stacked defense on super and base, so just with that he was already good for the legendary Goku event. Then he had 100% attack and defense at the start of turn, while also being able to see enemy super attacks, and recovered 7% HP when below 77% HP at the start of turn. Like, bro, that guy had an unconditional Scalder. This was just ridiculous. Like, this is ridiculous even by today's standards, so you can imagine how OP that was at the time. He was definitely one of the best units in the game for the legendary Goku event. He could then transform starting from the 4th turn from the start of battle when above 70% HP and with another Namekian category ally on the team, which sounded bad at first, but since it counts the friend Piccolo friend, the condition was definitely alright. Transformed, Piccolo now greatly raises his attack by 50% for 1 turn on super, while also having a 50% chance of stunning the attacked enemy for 2 turns, something that was actually pretty useful, since you could only see his transformation deep into a fight. Then he had 120% attack and defense at the start of turn, 40% damage reduction, recovered 10% HP when below 77% HP, and still kept his Scalder, which was just insane. Like, like, bro, that guy was literally invincible in log events. Like, he was definitely overkill defensively. I wish they had just traded some of his defensive capabilities for more offense. Like, sure, he had 10 to 40% crit chance depending on the amount of HP he had left, but I don't know, like after a couple of stacks, that guy just couldn't get touched in the legendary Goku event, especially transformed, so more offense would have been good, but that guy was still phenomenal nonetheless. Piccolo also came with a new nail banner unit, and that guy was insane. He stacked attack and defense on super, had 100% attack and defense at the start of turn, an additional 100% attack and defense with a Piccolo ally on the team, 10 to 77% damage reduction depending on the amount of HP he had left, and launched an additional super attack as well as having guaranteed crits when facing a wicked blind enemy. So this guy was just very good in the legendary Goku event and absolutely cracked against a wicked blind category enemy. Like, there were speculations at the time of like a future Frieza legendary Goku event, something that came honestly way too late, but honestly if that event had came earlier, this guy would have definitely been a beast there. Piccolo's Dokkan event also came with a new Dokkan Awakening of the Icarus Kid Gohan. He had a 30% chance of stunning the attack enemy on super, 1 key, 120% attack and defense with a 15% dodge chance at the start of turn, an additional 3 key, 30% attack and 50% dodge chance as the first attacker in a turn, an additional 1 key, 10% attack and 30% dodge chance as the second attacker in a turn, and a free Senzu, 200% attack and guaranteed crit once only when dropping below 30% HP. Like, the guy was definitely very good in SBR and Dokkan Battlefield and even EZAs just for that free Senzu. Like, that healing was just so valuable in those events. As for Piccolo's banner, it honestly was a pretty insane banner. It featured physical transforming Vegeta, who was now better than ever thanks to the legendary Goku event, HL Middle Cooler, who was still a phenomenal T-War, HL's percent blue evolution Vegeta, who was still very good, HL Turles, who was still one of the most valuable T-War in the game because of his super type buff, and Strength Percentry Vegeta, who was still a top 5 tank in the game. Like, that banner was very good, but the worldwide celebration was right around the corner, and those banners were probably going to be even better, so the smart move was probably to skip that banner at the time. We also had a new Prime Battle event that same day. First Form Cell was a sub leader for the Artificial Life Form category, recovered 15% HP on his 12 key super attack, lowered attack and defense on his 18 key super attack, had 20,000 attack and defense at the start of turn, gained 1 key up to 6 per super attack performed, had an additional 20,000 attack when attacking with 18 key or more, and performed a critical hit if the attacked enemy had his attack lowered. So the guy was just an insane free-to-play LR. The attack debuff on super coupled with his healing on his 12 key super just made him a beast in SBR. I remember building that guy full crit, so you had turns where that guy would lower the attacked enemy's attack with his 18 key super, and then launch an additional guaranteed crit super attack that also healed you 15% HP at a time. Like, this was just insane. We also had a new story event with a new free-to-play Vegeta. It was clear that this guy was going to get an awakening pretty soon, and since he wasn't on the piercing category, people speculated at the time that he was maybe going to Dokkan Awaken into some sort of Vegeta and Trunks combo card, which was definitely hype. The last thing we had that day was the new EZA for the units that awakened from the battlefield medals. So yeah, the EZA that was announced earlier that month. 7 new EZAs. Agel's Percentile Vegeta was probably the best card here. He raised his attack and defense by 30% for 6 turns on Super, had 90% attack and defense at the start of turn, and gained 15% defense per attack received, up to an additional 60% defense. Above that was calculated separately, for a total buff of 204% defense when fully built up. Like, that guy was just a beast defensively. Like, with a couple of super attacks, he was just a wall, and could definitely hold his own in the Legendary Goku event, as well as Super Battle Road. Tech Nuova Shenron was okay, like he gained 50% attack for 6 turns on Super, had 3 Ki and 90% attack and defense at the start of turn, and gave Shadow Dragon Saga Category Allies 30% attack and defense. Like, he wasn't anything crazy, but the Shadow Dragon Saga team had so few units that this guy was generally a decent option on that team. Tech Android 13, greatly lower defense on Super, had 4 Ki and 80% attack and defense when attacking with 8 Ki or more, and an additional 30% attack and defense with 3 or more Android Category Allies on the team. So the guy was essentially just stats. So nothing amazing, but I guess okay for a fish play card. Int Middle Cooler was very good. He massively lowered defense on Super, had 50% attack and defense at the start of turn, gave all allies 30% attack, and extreme class allies 3 Ki and 40% defense. Like, he was a very decent support type unit. The only problem is that he shared the same name as the Dokkan Fest Middle Cooler, and he definitely wasn't better than him, because that guy would have been so good on AGL Middle Cooler's team. Int Android 13 massively lowered defense on Super, had 50% attack and defense at the start of turn, changed Tech Ki Spheres to Rainbow, gained an additional 2 Ki per Rainbow Ki Spheres obtained, and had 13% attack and defense for Android's category on the team. Like, that guy was definitely alright. Nothing crazy, but a decent easy. Strength Pure Evil Boo raised his attack by 50% for 6 turns on Super, had 90% attack and defense at the start of turn, debuffed all enemies attack and defense by 20%, and launched an additional super attack while also having 50% dodge chance when facing a Majin Buu Saga category enemy. So the guy was clearly made for the Majin Buu Saga SVR stage, and very good there. It's actually thanks to him that I managed to beat that SVR stage for the first time. He was just so good there. Physical Super Saiyan Goku was an SVR beast. He had a 70% chance of stunning the attacked enemy for 2 turns on Super, had 2 Ki, 80% attack and defense, and 50% crit chance above 50% HP, and 3 Ki and 100% attack and defense, and 70% crit chance when below 50% HP. Like, his great chance to stun on Super was just so useful in SVR, and with his built-in crit chance, you could just build him full additional, and that guy was just doing so much damage, while also stunning the enemies left and right. He was just so good. Now, as for their EZA event, it was actually a pretty easy EZA. They were weak to Ginyu Force category units, so you just had to farm the Ginyu Force units, and you could easily breeze through that EZA. As simple as that, which I guess was the intention there. Like, this was an EZA clearly made to help out fish play players, so yeah, that was definitely good. Now, this is it for today. In the next history video, we'll cover the 300 million download celebration, one of my favorite celebrations of all time. The hype was just you just had to be there. But until then, take care. Peace.